We are back.
We're back and we have Eva, and hopefully we can talk to Eva without any sort of technical difficulties as we did last time, but Eva's such a good sport. Eva, thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know, Eva, go ahead.
I was just saying, my pleasure. No, go ahead. Tell me how good, please introduce me. I'd love to hear it.
Tell me how great I am. Eva is one of the lawyers working for the trucker convoy, specifically Tamara Lich. And that's why she's in all my pictures that I have with Tamara Lich. There's Eva's smiling mug right in the background so that she makes sure that her client doesn't go back to jail.
Yeah, she won't go back to prison.
Eva, I'm so glad you're on the show because I heard some crazy things at the end there. Just the absolute disarray in the police service. And the OPP seemed genuinely concerned that they were being asked to do things by OPS that were illegal, particularly these like snatch and grabs, Nicaraguan style abductions of peaceful protesters on the street. It was crazy.
Yeah, you probably noticed my smile went away. Like listening to that evidence today, I was on the ground. I saw some of the things happening, and it is actually reassuring to see that the OPP was looking to make sure that things were done correctly and legally. We saw some of that footage, our clients were there on the ground, some of them in Coventry, and just giving us accounts of what was going on. And one of our clients got some, a recording about how it is they're even stealing fuel. We were a little bit confused about that. It was good to hear the evidence again of the OPP department and the officers. It's very different to what we hear from the OPS.
Yeah, that is very true. The superintendent today, Abrams, he testified to the actions of the OPS causing a complete and total breakdown in early February with the protesters. They had their police liaison team who were working with the protesters towards a peaceful, it was obviously peaceful, but a resolution to everything. And then the OPS just moved in and started arresting everybody at Coventry for bringing fuel in. And the PLT unit, the police liaison unit, they wanted to quit. They just wanted to go home. They said, what's the point here? The quote was, all is lost. And I think it's a credit to your clients that it was not lost, because it could have been, but they continued negotiating even after those arrests.
That's right. Loss of trust is what I heard today, a lot of, and 100%. And, we had truckers and protesters saying, well, the police keep lying to us. They keep telling us one thing and doing something else. Why would we trust them? And like you said, they maintained resolve. They didn't stoop down to any level of disturbance and criminality, which after some time, so much credit to them for staying above and acting the way they were in really freezing conditions too. And a shout out to Ottawa residents, because a lot of Ottawa residents saw that as well. And they came to, as they did before, but then they really came out in full force when they heard and saw fuel was being taken away. And there was a possibility that people would be, freezing in their cars.
We produced no intelligence to indicate that these individuals would be armed. And there has been a lot of hyperbole about that. That was something we wish to, when people think about what happened on January 6th of 2020, that is presence of mind, but we produced no intelligence to indicate that that would be the case.
And I think the arrests for firearms after the fact play that out, as in there were none.
Correct. I so much enjoyed OPP Superintendent Morris. Time after time, questions were being asked. It's like and I think it was mostly the federal government lawyer almost fishing for, information. And he kind of just straight to the point, no credible information. Sometimes I saw reports in the media, but there was no credible information. That's what we should be looking at here. police reports, actual facts, not fiction. You know, and he went on to talk about the disinformation that the media like the concerns and the problems the disinformation the media caused on helping them contain and take control of the situation. So in fact, they were extending the problems and complicating the police in acting out what they needed to do. Just terrifying.
Yeah, I think we have that clip where Superintendent Morris talks about just how much of his time was wasted by people who are whipped into hysterics by media reports and what Pat Morris calls politicization of the convoy. Because, you know, these people in Ottawa were told for 2 weeks that the KKK was coming. And so when the so-called KKK finally arrived, all they did was call the cops and report people for mean signs. And he had to go and investigate them all, or at least his people had to go and investigate them all. And then he's got to deal with the intelligence reports related to that. So I think we have, it's a kind of a longer minute and plus clip, but he lays it all down about how damaging to his ability to work the constant rhetoric from politicians was. And as you say, it probably prolonged anything that happened in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a causal linkage in some people's minds between certain things that are not illegal or criminal. They just may not be in line with, and a nexus to somehow an intelligence threat. I can give you an example. I have had instances where people have approached me professionally because there were bumper stickers that had to do with entities that they disagreed with. So therefore, those people shouldn't be police officers, or they shouldn't be parked in policing, parking lots. And I heard terminology, that person is right wing, so, and then therefore an assumption. I used to hear all that all the time about left wing, and I was very concerned about it because I worked in anti-terrorism at the time of the 9/11 attacks, and I saw what these knee-jerk reactions do, where we get information from the public on any number of issues related to what they perceive to be threats from Wahhabism or Salafism or Sunni extremism. And there always seems to be an overreach that comes with this politicization. And I've had many instances where I've been asked to go through these intelligence checks without the reasonable grounds to suspect or believe that there is a threat posed. There is merely the presence of something or someone that someone doesn't like.
I think this says a lot because, you know, and it's actually true nowadays. I see a lot of people seeing people from the other side of the political aisle, or left-wing people looking at right-wing people, and just because they are conservatives, they're going to think that they are a threat to them. I think it says a lot about, you know, the level of violence that was actually behind the convoy.
The Prime Minister really believed that this situation was so bad that his house needed to be protective. Did he not also feel that it would have been justified to protect all the population of Ottawa? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his question. During the illegal occupation last winter, people across the country were hurting, not just in Ottawa, but across the entire country. And Canadians' freedoms to feel safe in their homes were threatened. And that's why we invoked the Emergency Act, because it was the right thing to do. And it worked to end this illegal occupation in Ottawa and across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
If the Prime Minister...
You know the reason why people couldn't feel safe in their home? Because of situations like what happened with Archer Pavlovsky in Alberta occurred during the convoy. Because we saw a video of police entering the house of people that were having what Quebecers called illegal gathering during the lockdowns, during the pandemic. That's why people didn't feel safe in their house. It wasn't because of the peaceful truckers that were protesting for the freedom of everyone. It's such a hypocritical and false statement just overall.
Well, not only that, that's not the requirements under the law in the Emergencies Act. Like, let's start there. If that's what the government is now saying is the reason they invoke the act, well, again, we could pack up and let's go home. Like, this case closed.
Yeah.
That is not justification for
100%.
invoking the Emergencies Act. And
Yeah.
it's actually really disturbing to see members of parliament suggest that.